Welcome to the D&D Fitness Radio Podcast, brought to you by your hosts, Don Saladino from New York City and Derek Hansen from Vancouver, Canada. In episode 30, we speak with pro golfer Morgan Hoffman.
Thanks for coming on. So Morgan, I want you to meet Derek. Derek Hansen has become a very good friend of mine. He's who I think of as probably the world's best sprint coach. And, you know, he worked under a gentleman by the name of Charlie Francis that trained Ben Johnson. And from a strength and conditioning standpoint, from a sprinting standpoint, technique, Morgan, I've learned more about speed and I've learned more about technique in that category than almost anyone I've ever spoken to in my life. So,
oh, that's exciting. Nice to meet you, Derek.
Yeah, and I live on a golf course, but I don't golf. So that's a problem. I run around the golf course and try not to get hit by balls. So,
yeah, you should keep it that way. Golf is too frustrating.
Oh,
and Derek, you know the background on Morgan, but I gotta say, because I know we're probably recording right now, we'll use some of this footage. But Morgan, I met back in about 2010, 2011 through my brother Joe. My brother Joe told me that he had a friend in the MGA circuit, Met Golf Association, that he believed was going to become a professional golfer. And my brother's 3 for 3 with all the people that he's called on that so far. It's only been 3 people. So I met Morgan, and honestly, he became a little brother to me. You know, fell in love with him like family. We, you know, have created a friendship, a bond that's just that I'm going to cherish my entire life. And he's been there for me as a family member, and I try and do whatever I can to add value to his life. And you know, it's been a pretty impressive journey that I've seen him go on. Some incredible, some not so incredible, but you know, I always, you know, there's been a bigger picture laid out for Morgan, and I believe that at the end he's going to triumph. And you know, from the days back at Oklahoma, one of the best amateur golfers in the world, made the Walker Cup team. Morgan, can you go into detail on how you qualified for the tour? Because it wasn't actually Q school. You probably made it the hardest way to make it, I would say, correct?
I mean, yeah, it's different. I mean, there's no easy way, I guess, to make it anymore. It's ridiculous. You have to go through web.com, and there's no fast road out of college to the tour. But the way I made it was I graduated college, and I went to first stage of Q school. I won that first stage by, I think, 11 shots or something. Went to second stage and broke my hand during it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, and I was mountain biking, and yeah, it sucks. So I couldn't finish. So once I healed, the web.com season was started, and I went and did Monday qualifiers. I think I qualified for like 7 through Mondays, and then like the rest, I just played in 11 events that year, and then I top 10 in 10 out of the 11, and then got my card that way.
And I'm going to jump in because obviously, again, me talking about Morgan, it's, you know, I've got a lot of pride in this, but I remember when he made the tour and he made it into his first FedEx, I think he came in, Morgan, you came in at what, 124? Was it 124?
When was that?
Your first FedEx. Remember when you qualified for your first?
No, my first FedEx was like 90th or something. My like second or third year on tour, I finished 124, and then had a good run in the playoffs.
That was fun because I remember you calling me up and you were, and I'm going to say this right now, you were almost a little down. You were like, all right, 124, it's not that, you know, and you're like, nope, it's fine. There's only one direction to go, and it's get better. And he made a run from 124, and what'd you go to 24 by the end of the year? 25?
Yeah.
So you made top 25, qualified for the Masters. We got to go to Augusta together, spend, you know, 7 days at Augusta, which was, I mean, an epic run. And, you know, I mean, you've definitely had some more obstacles come about, and things that you're kind of dealing with right now. I just wanted to know what you were comfortable with discussing. And I want to talk about Nepal a little bit, which I know is an incredible experience for you and your charity and your
Mm-hmm.
fitness and all this stuff. So kind of take us through everything a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, well, from, I guess it was 2011, from college, I started having muscle atrophy in my right pec, and Don and I were just trying to figure out, what was going on, and nobody could figure it out, and everybody thought that it was like a nerve entrapment somewhere under my clavicle, and that's what I had come to believe as well. And I went to Mayo Clinic and HSS and all these ridiculous specialized places for, interesting conditions, and nobody could figure out what was going on. So I think it was a 6-year process of misdiagnosis. And in the time, my swing speed kept going down and my right pec kept getting worse, and then eventually started atrophying in the left pec, and then finally in 2016 went to HSS, and they to a neurologist, and we were sitting at our first consultation, and he's like, I think you might have facioscapular humeral muscular dystrophy. I was like, all right, check this guy off the list. He's an idiot. Like, no chance I have that. And so like a few months later, the test comes back and it's positive, and I didn't really know what to do, and kind of just started a journey of like trying to figure out a cure for it. And I went on some crazy diets to try and eliminate all the waste and acidosis in my body to try and alkalize. And as I was doing it, I learned more that depending on how toxic your body is, it can take up to 3 months or 3 years. So I wasn't willing to really wait. And then a crazy thing happened. Chelsea, my girlfriend, was actually in Nepal because I have a friend, Sean Einhouse, that went to college with me. His mother's from Nepal, and I've been there a few times, and it's like a second home to me. Everybody is super nice and always welcoming, and she wanted to just get away from things for a little while and go do some charity work. And there was a Camp Hope there that she was helping out with kids. So she went alone for 2 weeks, and during that time span, she met this doctor who had cured muscular dystrophy patients, cancer patients, Parkinson's, all this stuff with just natural herbs that him and his colleagues, I don't know if you can call them colleagues, I'd say more like village friends up in, like, they live at like 14,000 feet in the Himalayan mountains, and they just pick herbs all day and follow these ancient books of healing. And so she started talking to him, and she called me and is like, yeah, why don't you come to Nepal, ironically, and get this treatment? And I was like, well, I want to finish this, and I don't like quitting in the middle of something. And but I weighed my options and decided to do it anyway. And the treatment was 90 days, twice a day, for 2.5 hours each session. So it was 180 sessions of 2.5 hours each.
That's amazing. Can you get into detail a little bit what the sessions were like? Because this is something, it's pretty difficult to kind of handle, right?
Yeah. No, it was the toughest thing that I've had to go through mentally, because I was there alone. Nobody really spoke English that much. The people were incredible, very welcoming. But the treatment was 7:30 till like 10 in the morning, and I would get in there and declothe and put these really stylish, like, felt underwear on, and they would just basically lather me up with these herbs that they added water to, and then my body would dry for 20 minutes on the front side. I would flip over, they would apply more herbs, I'd have to dry for another 20 minutes, repeat that process on both sides, and then wipe me off, and then apply like this hot kind of ghee that was made from tortoise fat and alligator fat mixed with different herbs that they picked in the Himalayas. And in the beginning it stung really bad, and it made me really cold. So like as we progressed throughout the treatment, we learned that we had to put heaters on either side of the bed for me, and I would be shivering, my teeth would be chattering, and like once I wiped it off, my skin would have like rashes all over it. And yeah, so then I had to have a nice lunch break and do that all over again, and then I would do that every day for 90.
So you had 90 straight days of this, basically 5 hours a day. Was there a lot of meditation involved? I mean, was there?
Yeah, so I got to know a couple. The lady was named Kaya and the husband was named Himanshu, and they were from India. And Kaya was the first assistant under this mystic kind of meditation guru from India. His name was Sadhguru, Sadhguru. And I've been ironically watching his videos for like 3 years prior to that on YouTube. And she was like, hey, why don't you come and do this class? It's a 7-day thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know. This treatment is taking up a lot of my time, and doesn't really seem feasible. So she's like, well, it's 6 to 9 at night. And I got done at about like 5:30 every day. So I ended up doing it. I did it every night for 7 days. And then there was one day on Saturday that was a 12-hour meditation class. And I did that and skipped one day of treatment. And that felt like heaven, not having to walk around with that stuff on. But it was great. So for the rest of the stay, I would, during lunch, do meditation and yoga, which they taught hand in hand. And it was really cool. I learned a lot about myself and have new knowledge about many things coming back here to the States.
Because I mean, I think what's interesting about it is I've seen your journey over the last, decade, and you were someone in the beginning who, was eating healthy to really truly understanding your body. And I've always been a very good friend, but also a coach. And even nutritionally lately, I've stepped back because there's specific things that you've researched that, I completely understand is out of my scope. And your body. I mean, you now truly know your body. Where early on, said that comment to me, I'd be like, you don't know anything. You don't know your body, but you really know now and what it works. And I think was interesting was when you got back from that trip, you had a significant weight loss naturally. You definitely look like that you were mentally. I mean, you seem mentally different. You just seem like you were carrying yourself with a little. Even more confidence and even with a little more clarity and a little more relaxed. And, I remember when we got together at your charity, and I want to talk about that a little bit, the Morgan Hoffman Foundation, which you raised how much for? About $1.3 million?
1.6 it turned out to be.
That's unbelievable. So it's for Morgan's first charity event. I know I'm jumping around, but it's exciting stuff. And to raise money for muscular dystrophy and awareness, et cetera. And he threw a charity event at Arcola Country Club. And, I mean, even some of the tour players that I spoke to afterwards, they said it was the best event they've ever gone to. I know for me, Zadrunas Ilgauskas, Dr. Bill Healy, a bunch of people that you're friendly with. I mean, we were kind of blown away about just about the people it brought in and the money it raised. And, how now, I mean, as great of a player as you are on the PGA Tour, and I said this to you, I know for a fact that you're going to continue to play, you're going to continue to be successful, you're going to continue to do well, but I know there's also another focus for you. There's a reason why, this happened. And you are, you're the type of person I think that can really commit to these different types of cultures and learning of different systems and meditation. A lot of people can't do that. I think it takes a special person to do that. I'm obviously really, really proud of you for it, but.
Thanks, man. Well, I mean, people say that it's amazing, like what I've done and what I've dedicated myself to, but, you don't really understand what you're capable of until you're kind of pushed into a corner. And when it comes to health, for me, health comes first. And I think once people have something that causes a serious ailment and you have one of two directions to go, healthy or unhealthy, then I think a lot of people would choose the extreme route of certain, eating routines, which I've done. And it's, I'm just trying to say that I think other people would follow suit as well.
So what's your eating like now?
So it's weird. It's changed so much over the last year and a half. It's gone from no dairy. When you and I met, you got me off dairy like 6 years ago, and I felt great. And then it's gone to no gluten, and then now it's gone to no meat. So I call myself a raw vegan, which basically means I try and eat as much raw fruits and vegetables and like nuts and seeds as possible. Only drink water. No, it's like and that might sound extreme, but now like getting into it, like I have certain water I drink. There's only certain fruits and vegetables that I eat at certain times of the year because they grow differently from certain areas, and like all the amounts of chlorophyll and protein in each vegetable, like I'm tracking, and like it's pretty insane, but it's really been helping. And my atrophied areas, I can actually like flex some muscle in right now, which you can't see a visual difference, but you can definitely feel it with your fingers in between my ribs. And
I knew for a fact, I know for a fact that at a specific point you could not do that.
Right. Yeah. Well, for years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, I think it was wild about it is, in the beginning, I remember we were kind of searching a little bit, I remember you had kind of a bike fall. So I'm thinking to myself back in like 2011, 2012, I'm like, oh, you have an entrapped nerve. Like that's what it is. And
right. Exactly.
We went in for the testing and we didn't see that. And, I mean, the journey has been, long. I remember certain MRIs.
Yeah,
crazy.
I remember you there in New York City when I was getting shocked, man, with those needles. It was the worst thing ever.
Yeah, they had to stick needles into his pec, and they basically had a shock. And literally, poor Morgan's like pouring sweat. It was painful as hell. I'm sitting there.
I hate needles.
I was like, Jesus. I hate MRIs. So I think what really freaked me out was that day when you had to go in. I was like, how long were you in the MRI chamber for? I think you said it was like 2.5, 3 hours. Like 2.5, 3 hours. Ridiculous. I would have had a freaking heart attack. I can't deal with a tight space. So the diet seems on point. You're continuing these treatments even if you're not in Nepal right now, correct? Isn't there certain herbs and protocol that you have? What do you have to do now?
So I just have these herbs that I carried back over, and I take them twice a day orally. So I just mix them up in water, and they taste like you're taking a handful of dirt and eating it. But I don't really care. I think it's working. So.
Jeez.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask the cliche question here. And how has golf prepared you for this? Because obviously it's very meticulous and there's a lot of patience. For me, it's like death by a million cuts, but playing golf, but has it mentally prepared you? Because I'm watching, people like who are in slumps, and you're like, wow, it's, how do they get back? Right.
Right. Well, look at Tiger,
Yeah.
Perfect example.
Did you see that video? Did you see that video the other day of him viewing all the naysayers? I put it up on
that was so sick.
It was unbelievable. But it's like,
I love it.
I love it. So talk to me right now about playing. What's your plan?
Well, to answer Derek's
Derek
question,
first.
how has golf prepared me is, I guess the best example is when I first came out and I started doing those web.com Mondays, which I was explaining earlier. I missed the first 7 in a row by 1 or 2 shots, and I never shot above 70 in those first. I actually don't think I shot above 68, so I was between 65 and 68. I went to like 3 or 4 playoffs with 65s and missed, and it's just insane. And I got really down, and like my scoring average right now is like 66.8 or something, and I'm not qualifying. It's ridiculous. And you just don't give up, and you learn how to play with your strengths, and you just find a way. And that's kind of how I've been now. Like people look at me kind of cock-headed or cockeyed or whatever when I say, like, I know there's a cure out there, when all of the United States of America says there's no cure for muscular dystrophy. But, you know, it's bullshit. Like, people don't do their own research. Like, go online and just type in holistic or natural living, or, you know, living off the land, finding, like, there's so many different things that you can look into other than just like bioscientific, you know, all this kind of research and stuff, which obviously has helped a lot of people. But I'm just saying there's more ways to skin a cat, and I think that's the way I'm going to come back to golf too. And I'm swinging the club a little bit now, and it feels a lot better than I thought it would be, for sure, which is really exciting. And I'm going to go back and get the genetic test redone, the same one that diagnosed me, and we'll see if it comes back negative or positive. If it comes back positive, then I'll just continue searching the world for until I get cured, and then I'll come back to play golf. But then if it comes back negative and says I don't have the disease anymore, then I'll go full bore and getting it back out on tour and building my foundation and helping people get to where I am.
Has anybody looked at stem cells in relation to muscular dystrophy? Where's that at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's an amazing place in the Bahamas, actually, that is doing a lot of, they have to call it experimental, but they have great results. And then there's a place in Germany that is also going along the right route, I believe, and they're actually using umbilical cord stem cells from babies that has crazily found some amazing effects for people with all types of things, cancer, like torn ACL, you know, anything. So, which that's a little far out, but I think that it could be a good backup plan.
So next steps are genetic testing, see what the results are, and then at that point you're gonna make your decision and move forward in whatever direction you decide, correct?
Right, exactly. And I'm still young, you know, like even if this search takes a couple of years, like I'd rather get it over with now than waiting till later to see if it continues to affect my golf.
So right now, where'd you say you were? Did you say you're in Montana?
I'm in Oklahoma now.
Oh, Oklahoma now. You were just with your buddy in the woods, right?
Yeah, in Montana.
In Montana. How was that?
Unbelievable. I love that. I've always been wanting to go there for my whole life, and it's just so beautiful, man.
That was your first time?
Yeah.
What'd you guys do?
we went like ATVing, we went to Glacier National Park and hiked, and like Dave has his own landing strip at his house, so we just pulled the plane right up to his garage. It was so sick.
And all right, so we haven't dove. That was my next topic there. So you were a very good hockey player in high school, but you also had a passion for flying, correct? And that was a big dream that you were able to fulfill once you made the PGA Tour. So what was that? Was that something that you just knew? You were like, once I'm doing this, no matter whether I make the tour or not, I'm going to get my pilot's license. And what was that like?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an expensive process, you know, like renting a plane and like renting a instructor and then paying for the fuel and all that. And so saving up a little money first. Like I did my ground school at Oklahoma State because they have an aviation school there, since they have a airport on campus, which is really cool. And then once I got to Florida, once I moved there, when I went pro, I had a great airport by the house and finished my license, and always loved just love flying. Two of my uncles were Air Force pilots. My mom has been a flight attendant for Delta for 40 years, and it's just been an extreme passion, and the freedom is amazing. And I get to fly with my dogs, who have been coming around me for the last few weeks, my girlfriend, and it's been really special.
That's awesome. So you ended up investing in a plane, correct? A little small little plane to kind of putz around. And how often do you end up going up on that?
Well, yeah, I bought a plane, Piper Lance, and I sold that. And now I traded it in for a Mirage, which is actually pressurized up to 25,000 feet. And I fly to every event on it when I'm playing on tour, and then do all my traveling in it now, because I can get from West Palm up to about Boston nonstop, 1,200 miles. So it's pretty cool.
Who else on tour? There was someone else on tour that kind of inspired you to start flying, correct? Wasn't there another legend? Wasn't there another Hall of Fame player? That was
Arnold Palmer.
Arnold Palmer, babe. Yep, that's freaking awesome.
He is a legend. And
he knew that you he knew that you flew, right? Didn't he confront you about it?
I was lucky enough to talk to him a bunch. About 6 years ago, I played at the Palmer Cup and actually at Cherry Hills in Colorado, and he was there, and we talked about flying and all of his planes that he had, and owned about 20 of them through the years. It was really inspirational, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. So it was a cool way to start into it.
Pretty incredible. So now you're getting back. Now I know I owe you a program also, correct?
Soon, yeah. I'm almost done with the last week.
It's coming no later than tomorrow. I actually have it. So this is Morgan and I are, we don't always get to see each other, but I know what's going on in his body. And I think the beautiful thing is anytime he's in town or he's up on the Northeast, he stops in, we kind of assess him. Charlie Weingroff checks him out. We see how he's moving. But I know the one thing with you is you've always moved beautifully, and you've always had great mobility. You've been incredibly strong and athletic. So he's been someone very, very easy to work with. But
have you had to make any modifications, or are you doing anything different?
When Morgan got back, I mean, Morgan, how many months off were you? 3 or 4 months, right?
4 months, no working out, yeah.
Which I don't know if you've ever done. So it was one of those things where, any work for him. I mean, I wanted to start developing some endurance, some muscular endurance, some work capacity. We're almost periodizing every week just to kind of give him a focus. It was a 6-week program where I was just trying to develop that muscular endurance and get him moving again. And, low volume, but just getting him in there, balancing it out with, some muscular endurance work, some hypertrophy work, because naturally, on Morgan, we're trying to put muscle on him, even as a golfer. My goal with him, is, the more muscle, as long as we can maintain mobility and get him into the golf positions he needs to get into, then I'm doing my job. But we also had a little bit of sprint work in there, and we had some mobility work in there with a little bit of yoga that he likes to do. I know it's when he gets some of his breathing in, and he meditates a lot already. So, all the recovery work I was less worried about. I think my biggest concern was just making sure that he wasn't too sore out of the gate. And seeing how he handled these 6 weeks. And it seemed like, Morgan, it seemed like you're handling it pretty well, correct? You're getting the strength back?
Yeah, it's great. I'm going up in weight every week and finally gaining some muscle. I can start to see it in the mirror, and it's exciting. Hitting the ball is coming off a little faster, and it's just so good to be back in the gym. I was going crazy without working out. And
now the next program, Derek, we're going to start implementing a little bit more power into it. We might get him doing some a little bit of Olympic lifting, but again, no, not even close to any max effort stuff. Just implementing some speed and technique back in there. Continuing with Morgan, naturally, we want to train him to be a power and strength athlete, but we also want to take into consideration that he needs to be carrying a lot of body armor around. So we're trying to pack some muscle back on him and make sure that we're developing that resiliency. And my training with Morgan has always been, naturally we want to get him as optimal as possible, but it's more concerning of me to make sure that he's resilient and making sure that his season, Derek, is way longer than most other athletes. His season's 10, 11 months a year. So making sure that, when he hits those playoffs and it becomes the most grueling, that his body doesn't give out on him.
Yeah, is the culture changing in terms of the perspective on like size and weightlifting and those types of things in golf? Because I was even listening to that Joe Rogan podcast with Teddy Atlas, and they're talking about weightlifting and boxers. Is there a culture shift now where people want to be bigger and stronger?
It's funny. Things have changed over the last, we've almost been working together a decade. So in the beginning, where things were very golf specific, for me, it's always been about creating a good athlete. And I think where it becomes golf specific for me is me understanding the golf swing and me doing check-ins with his swing coach, Gary Gilchrist. And, we'll have, meetings every year or twice a year with Morgan's team to kind of sit down and say, what's the game plan this year? What's going on? And, I'm just a believer that, he needs to maintain movement quality. Gary's the boss, and Gary's got to be able to make sure he can get into specific positions. And I'm free to get him as strong as I want and put on as much muscle as we can, as long as we're not jeopardizing what Gary's trying to do with him. So where with a lot of players, sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
No, for me, just to add on to your point, it's never been about being a golfer, because to be honest, you don't need to be in shape to play golf. You can think about 10 off the top of your head, John Daly, going on that kind of note. But it's never been about being a golfer. It's just been about being an athlete. It's about getting your speed, getting fast, feeling strong, feeling confident. And that's what Don and I have always been about. And, having a positive outlook and feeling when you leave the gym, feeling like you can go for more. And it's always been awesome training with Don, and I think we're on the right track getting back.
Always. And it's always, Derek, this approach. Somewhat of when I say minimalistic approach, Morgan, a lot of times, and Morgan, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've always had to kind of pull back on the reins a little bit, because he's so strong and he's so athletic and he wants to go and work hard. And, we understand that, now we especially, that if we get too taxed, if we spend his powder too quickly, that could affect, his Friday round, his Sunday round, whatever it might be. So a lot of times, that's been the biggest challenge for him. And even myself is, all right, we're done. We got in what we need to get in. It's like, you're feeling great. You want to keep going because you love that. You love that sensation. You love that return it's giving you in that moment, physically and mentally. But sometimes the best thing to do is just kind of walk away, get a good meal, and you focus on recovery and get a good night's sleep.
Yeah. And both of you, I guess, could answer this question with Morgan. What advice would you give to younger golfers in doing their preparation, and what should they be focusing on if you're going to advise or mentor a young golfer?
Morgan, you want to leave that off?
I see the game is changing 100% to becoming more of an athletic sport. And you see kids when they're, 5, 6, 7 years old starting to get in the gym. And I personally think that's a little too early. Your body's still growing. And I think high school is a great time to really start performing in the gym and learning your body, getting stronger for college sports. But I would always say, just get the right guidance, choose someone who fits you and is going to push you. But make sure that it's not just one way of training. It needs to be very broad spectrum, not just doing ball slams or ball throws in a golf posture because we're playing golf. Like, you don't see football players just doing the throwing or football movement every time, or, tackling someone. They're doing Olympic lifts, squats, and all this kind of stuff. And I think everybody should train the same way within their realm of what their body is calling for. I think having fast twitch muscles and speed is very important for the golf swing, and getting flexible and strong at the same time is kind of all encompassing, and that's what we focused on.
I know my answer to that question is yes to everything Morgan said, but I think parents especially, they need to make sure that their kids are playing several different sports. And what made Morgan a great golfer wasn't necessarily that he started in the gym really early. I don't even remember what age you started in the gym at, but it was the fact that when you weren't playing golf, you were playing ice hockey or other sports, or running, or throwing it, or doing specific athletic activities, and not being so, typed into that sport. And I know a lot of parents out there, they want to see their kids become an exceptional player. And I'm almost like, no, it's fine. Like, I want the best for my kids also, but you're going to give them the best if you give them a little bit more variety at a young age, and you allow them to develop different movements and different capacities. So that's my wish for parents, and that's my wish for children. Let them go out there and let them, baseball season comes around, let them play baseball. Hockey comes around, let them play hockey. And when it comes to a time where they really fall in love with something and they want to commit, then 15, 16 years old, start committing to that game and get really good at your craft. And Morgan, I think that's something that you did. I know it's something that I did, but obviously it worked out better for you because you're playing professional sports and I'm not. So it's all good.
Is there a good connection between hockey and golf? The Happy Gilmore effect? Like, what's going on there?
It seems to be like a lot of hockey players that I've played with, like even on NHL, are really good golfers. I don't know what it is, but it's kind of the same motion, I guess, but it's a good kind of offset for winter, summer sports for sure.
I just played golf with Mario Lemieux this summer, and Morgan, did I even tell you that? I went out and I played with Lemieux. I was like, Jesus, I was in a charity outing and I got paired up with him, and he's like a solid scratch.
Is he really?
Dude, he's ridiculous. And I was laughing because I turned to my buddy Joey's my brother Joe's best friend, Dave Basha, who plays competitively also, and Dave's probably one of the best players at our club. And I turned to Dave and I go, Jesus, for a big guy, he's got unbelievable hands. And he looks back at me like I'm nuts. He's like, do you think? We're talking about Mario Lemieux here, probably some of the best hands ever in hockey. I mean, the guy was just unbelievable, but he was ridiculous. He could absolutely kill a ball off the tee, around the greens. He had great touch, great feel, great out of the bunker, great on the greens. The guy was a complete player. He was awesome.
That's sweet.
You got to get out and play with him soon, son. So Morgan, you've been great with your time. I know you're in the woods right now. Oh no, I'm sorry, you're back in Oklahoma right now. So last two questions. What's next? And then tell everyone about your charity and where they can find if they want to donate.
What's next is just staying in the gym, getting strong, and eating right, getting my speed back. I'm then really kind of getting back on the horse for starting up the planning stage for the next charity event. the annual one in New Jersey at Arcola, and getting our foundation in the place it needs to be, growing and finding people that can help us and direct us where to go. And it's pretty amazing. Like, my dream for it is to have a health and wellness center, probably start in Florida. My goal is to help people cope with muscular dystrophy and hopefully one day, cure their illness. And then not only focus on muscular dystrophy, but have other people in there who just want to better their health and learn about food and how it can cure you, and want to have a vegan restaurant in there, and a nutritionist, and a trainer, Don Saladino, specialist. It's going to be really cool, like an all-encompassing health stop, and that's what we're raising money for. And we're on the right track. It's crazy. We raised $1.6 million in the first 8 months of our charity, and we have a great marketing team that is helping with our foundation profile and website, and it's just morganhoffman.org. Hoffman, Hoffmann, 2 N's at the end. And then Instagram is just Morgan Hoffman Foundation, as well as Twitter and Facebook. So you can go on our website morganhoffman.org, and you'll see the donate button there, and you can read more about my story and information on where the money's going.
And I know that article in the Players Tribune was incredible, and I know you gained a lot of you're already respected by a lot of your peers, but I know this puts you on another level. And like I said earlier, man, if there's someone who's going to help find a cure, it's going to be you. I already know it.
Thanks, man.
All right, brother. Well, Derek, Morgan, thanks for your time, man. We really appreciate you doing this. I know it's a pain in the ass for you to kind of get out of your busy schedule, but I love you, man. And
no, man, anything for my brother.
I love you, brother. And I'll get that program to you, and let's touch base in a day or two to review.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Morgan.
Thanks, Morgan. Thanks, Derek.
Take care, guys.